But yeah, all 5 games under $10. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you made the sale. Shut up and take my money.
Even if you're only gonna play Sands of Time and then play Warrior Within for 10 minutes just so you can sing "I stand alone."
Honestly, I think the first so Sands of Time for sure. Warrior Within, just because it's honestly we played the shit out of that game.
I think Warrior Within just landed on theme. Like I remember that commercial with the what's that band called? I forget what that band is called now. But
Oh,
they
that's
is that God? That's Godsmack.
Godsmack, yeah.
And yeah, it just hits, and then you play the game, and like that first encounter has the music starts, like the riff starts up, and you're just like, okay, you know what? This isn't your granddaddy's Prince of Persia. Like this is edgier. And that was what 2004, 2005, right when
Yeah.
I think like heavy metal was kind of having a moment, or like metal, not heavy metal, but metal was having a moment. I think who was it? The Sometimes Goodbye's a Second Chance guys were on the charts.
Yep.
Disturbed was at its peak in popularity. Who are the scary guys in Mass? Slipknot, and then not Noir, Guar. There it is, Guar. It was just it was not a weird time in music, but just like less poppy. Here I am,
Right.
here I am talking about these like metal-esque heavy bands as non-poppy. If there are any fans of those bands listening, they want to rip my throat out right now, and for good reason.
Let's see. So Sands of Time, 2003,
Okay,
and then sorry, I had to go through. Like I put in Prince of Persia series, and it just pulled up Sands of Time. I'm like, okay, great.
he's on the Wikipedia page.
I'm on the Wikipedia page.
They usually have the timeline usually.
This one didn't. It didn't. I guess that's what I was looking for. Is that series where it gives you a timeline? Uh, Warrior Within 2004.
Mhm.
I didn't know it was on the BlackBerry.
What?
Yeah, apparently in March 2006 it was on the
It
BlackBerry.
might have been one of those side scrollers.
I think it was because they did the same thing with Sands of Time and they had it on the Game Boy Advance.
It had to be. It was the time of the GBA. Like it had to be a side scroller. It wasn't anything fancy.
And then there's Two Thrones.
Two Thrones would have
Two
been
Thrones
05 or 06.
05. They went back to back to back. I didn't realize that.
Because then they took a year off to do the first I think the first Assassin's Creed was either 2006 or 2007.
Yeah, because I think this was their last previous gen. Then they went to the 360 PS3.
Now you've got me curious. When was the first Assassin's Creed? I want to say it was 2007, but that might have been 2. Oh, don't Google Assassins. Google Assassin's Creed. Now I'm on a list somewhere.
I'm gonna say it was 2007. No, 2006 because it was out for a few years before.
First one was 2007 because Xbox 360 came out in 05, PS3 and Wii came out in 2006, if I'm remembering correctly.
And if I remember, I thought it was 360 first for a while, and then
360 was first. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the PS3 version came out like a year later or something. There was like a lot of bugs to it, if I remember correctly.
Well, now I need
on
to
top
know.
of the 360 bugs.
See, now we're just going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole. So 360 came out November 22nd, 2005. PS3 came out like almost a year and to the day, like a year later, November 17th. And that's when Sony was still doing their different region release windows. Wow, that's crazy. I can't wait till we get up to those years because those are like really big transition years. I guess we should do the intro. Hey, everybody. This is Smashing Game Time. I'm Nick.
And I'm Josh.
I think I pointed the right way for that. I don't have the screen up.
Yeah, today that's the direction.
Today we are doing another speed cap. It's Josh's turn. He's going to do Sands of Time since I got 2 of the Silent Hill 3 characters right. I went ahead and chose Prince of Persia Sands of Time for him. Josh, how you feeling about this one?
Not as confident as... Well, see, I said not as confident with Metal Gear Solid 2. I did pretty well, actually. With this one, obviously, this is probably one of the more played games that we had, but I know there's parts I'm going to miss. I can feel it.
How much research did you do?
I sat down for at least an hour and read everything I could.
Okay. I have a punishment in my mind. Do we want to discuss it real quick?
We can. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my punishment, and I have another one for later on, but this is the punishment I came up with. Like, I think I was like just on a run yesterday and thought of it. Loser has to do the next stream shirtless.
Sure, I guess. I mean,
I mean, if you're not comfortable, we can find something else. But
I'm not comfortable watching you shirtless. That's my problem.
well, if we do it like we did this last stream, where we're both in a separate room.
So that's kind of, you know,
I mean, if you
little.
were a true compadre, both people would do it shirtless. But yeah, I say the loser does the next stream shirtless.
All right, let's do it.
Be it XCOM or whatever the game is. All right.
Well, I don't know about XCOM, seeing as you killed all of our characters.
We might have to restart that, or we might just have to start two. I don't know. I'll put a poll in the Discord and see what people say.
They're gonna tell us to keep going until we die.
Until we die, and then jump into two. I hear
Well, I
two.
guess technically we do Enemy Within or something.
True. Is two harder than one?
In my opinion, it is.
Okay, because the Chimera Squad, I played Chimera Squad before the rest of them, and I think Chimera Squad's the easiest. But it's also like got like a flat, like, this is the story. Like, these characters already all have names.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why people meme on 2 saying you could have a 99% chance of doing damage and it still misses.
Don't tell me that, Josh. Don't tell me that.
I'm just being honest. It's
Don't
the one
tell me
game, I'm not
that.
gonna lie, it's the one game I spent at least 20, 30 plus hours on one campaign and still lost on like the second hardest mode.
I just love how all these name characters are, like, we've got all these name characters and they're all dead. Like, every last one of them. I don't think we've had one survive.
No, well, you killed like 6 of them.
Folks, let me remind you. We have, so Josh has 20 things he has to hit. Josh, don't look at the screen. Do not cheat. Josh has to hit
What's it up?
Josh has to hit
we
all
go.
20 of these points once I pull them up. I'm on the Wikipedia page, so any last minute studying there for you, Josh.
Yep,
He has
I
to hit all
covered.
20 of these. We won't have them up while he's doing the speed run. We do have a link to a PDF of this in the show notes, so you can pull that up and follow along if you'd like. If you're driving, don't do that because that is crazy.
Have your passenger do it though.
No, don't do it while driving, Josh. Please don't.
No,
tell
I said
people.
have your passenger do it.
Have your passenger pull it up and read them off to you.
I'm not
But
that crazy.
Your 20 moments, Josh. I will give you a little spoiler. Mention some gameplay stuff. That'll help your score. And there was a little note in there about the future of the series. So maybe mention something about the future of the series. Those are the 2 hints you're getting from me. Otherwise, folks, like I said, we are Smashing Game Time. We're everywhere that you can find your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Drop us a rate and review over on the Apple Podcast. We got the first one up. It was me. Who cares? But we would love some words of kindness or some nice little roasts to read about Josh, because who doesn't love a good roasting of Josh?
I do.
Oh yeah, he loves it.
I love my roast.
He loves roast. He loves rump roast. It's his favorite. All right, Josh, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, and you're on.
All right. So it starts off with the prince telling the story of like the game's like basically he's narrating what's happening or what's going on or what happened, I guess. Spoiler alert. Anyway, so it starts off with his father. I can't remember his name, but it's like he's like the king of Persia, basically, traveling to somewhere in India. I think it's like it's a foreign country in India. It's somewhere in there. Anyway, no, he's traveling to India. He's traveling to a distant land somewhere, and they meet up with like that country's king's advisor. He's called the vizier or vizier, or however you want to call it. Basically, the vizier convinces the prince's father to attack the kingdom that they're going to. Basically, attack it, and he's like, "Oh, if you do it, there's honor, glory, wealth beyond your wildest dreams." And so it starts off basically as the army is basically attacking the kingdom. The prince is like, "Oh, well, I did not seek honor in battle. I seeked my father's favor in the wealth." He's trying to find the what's it called? I think the king's name is like Maharajas. I think that was his name, but like basically it's like the biggest wealth that is known at that time. So he's looking for that vault. So as the army attacks, the prince is is trying to go through and find this vault before anybody else can prove himself. So he goes in, he fights a couple of lackeys, he eventually makes his way to the vault, and when he gets there, the one thing he's drawn to is this huge hourglass. Basically, it's like a huge sand hourglass, and there's a dagger embedded in it. And this is like oh, he's fixated on it. And then when he finally gets to it, he takes the dagger from the hourglass. Upon doing that, though, he kind of accidentally realizes that it can control time because he sees like some falling debris. He accidentally does something with a dagger, and it kind of reverses it back, so he goes back and sees it again. And he's like, "Oh well, what the heck is this?" And so from there, you find out that the king of Persia's army has taken over the palace, and um he's taken the hourglass and all the wealth basically for himself. Anyway, so upon getting the hourglass back, they were like talking about like the more wealth that's within it, and the visor basically kind of like he kind of wants the dagger and the hourglass because you find out that he's actually dying, and there is apparently a legend saying that if you release the sands and you control it, that you basically have immortality. So he kind of like coerces the prince into tells him like, hey, go ahead and activate it, and kind of like plays the prince into doing it. So he does it, and then the Maharajas, is that it? I think that's his name. The king who that you invaded his land. His daughter, her name is Farah. Farah. I think it's Farah or Farah. I can't remember. She like tries to so she's captured and is taken as a prisoner, and she tries to like warn them not to do it, but the prince once it goes ahead and does it. Upon releasing it, the visor ends up using his magic to manipulate the sands and starts transforming people all throughout it. And there's only two people who don't get transformed: the visor himself, because he's able to use magic to manipulate it, and then the prince, who has the dagger of time. The prince or the visor basically is like, "Hey, give me the dagger, give it to me now." The prince is like, "Hell no!" and then basically escapes the whole throne room. And as you're like fleeing, the sand is kind of being manipulated throughout the whole entire palace, and everybody who touches it is being changed into these creatures, including the king of Persia. So basically, you find out that it's only you, the prince, the vizier, and God, I can't. Her name's gonna bother me now. I'm gonna say Farah. I'm just gonna stick with Farah. Uh, you basically find out that all three of you are the only ones who aren't changed, and that's because, and the reason Farah's not changed is I think she's technically like the keeper of or her family's like the keeper of the hourglass. So they're like artifacts passed down through generation. I believe she has something like it's like a medallion basically. So that's why she wasn't changed either. So basically, you're traveling throughout the whole place, trying to get back to the hourglass, and you find out that the hourglass was moved to the Tower of damn, that's gonna bother me. I can't remember the name. It was moved to a tower. So you and Farah kind of like work together to work your way up, and in battle, you learn that you can control time, mainly uh, rewinding stuff. See, I don't remember what else you could do in it with it. I don't think you could fast forward. I think it was only rewind in this one. So you would like rewind time. Like if you got hit like so many times, you can go back like a few seconds before you got hit. You could use the time to manipulate puzzles. Like if you had to like reverse the time flow to be able to have like these blocks reappear because they were falling apart, you can reverse it and then it'll come back and you could climb up it and run away, whatever, blah blah blah. Let's see what else. So from there, so basically you find out the reason they're going to the hourglass is the prince has to return the dagger back to the hourglass, and it should fix everything. I say should because obviously it hasn't been done. No one really knows. As the prince and Farah are traveling, they start at first it's kind of like they're like hostile towards each other, like more standoffish. As it progresses, they slowly become like a more relaxed and more genuine. They become more comfortable around each other, uh, and the prince actually starts falling for her. He kind of thinks the same thing that she's falling in love with him, but obviously it's him speculating, so you don't know. Oh, as this is all going on, the prince starts seeing visions. I forgot to mention this. So at different times he sees like kind of like the future of what's going to happen. Um, and at this particular moment, as he's like starting to fall for her, he starts to see visions of her stealing the dagger from him, and so he starts to like question himself and question her motives. Like, well, what's in it for her? Like, her whole family's basically dead or captured. Her kingdom is no longer hers. So it's like, what does she benefit from all this? So he starts to like basically starts to like push her away, and it's kind of like, I need to like focus on the task ahead and need to keep an eye on her at the same time. And as he's seen that vision, like she starts to become more like urgent about getting to the tower, getting to the sands. Um, and he just doesn't know what to do. He's torn because he doesn't know whether to trust her or because so far the visions he's seen have all been true for the most part. So he's like, I don't know what to do. So
10 minutes left, Josh.
Okay. So basically, as they get to the tower, Farah is like telling him how to basically recapture the sands of time and put it back into the hourglass. Um, but as the prince is still questioning her motives, he hesitates and kind of like confronts her about it. Like, hey, why, my family captured you. We put you in as a slave. We killed your father. We took all this stuff. So like, why are you here? Why are you helping me? And as this is happening, the vizier like basically comes out of nowhere, um, knocks the prince off the top of the hourglass. He tries and he basically takes the dagger from the prince. The prince, though, chose to save Farah instead of the dagger. But before the vizier could take a hold of the dagger completely, uh, the prince is able to snag the dagger real quick from his grasp. They fall from the tower into this like dark pit, basically, and you learn that the prince is terrified of like cramped spaces. He has claustrophobia, and Farah talks about a story um, with a secret word. Don't even ask me how to say. I don't even remember what the word was, but basically, it's a word that her mom told her would open secret doorways. So the prince like is in the secret doorway or in a secret passage himself and realizes after a little bit that Farah is no longer with them. She was right there telling him the story. She kind of like disappeared, and he's like, well, what the hell? So he looks for her in the secret passage, and he eventually finds her in a bath, bathing. And she's like, hey, come here in the water and join me. And he kind of does because he obviously is in love with her. Uh, Removes all of his clothes and stuff and everything, and they make love. Uh, then he falls asleep and he wakes up and realizes, oh, my weapons are gone, including the dagger of time. Farah basically stole it from him. Anyway, so but by the time he realizes that they're gone, Farah's already gone as well. So he's like, well, shit, that premonition, that vision came true. So he does finally, or so he finds another sword first because obviously he has no weapons, and then pursues Farah. And he finally catches up to her. She was being attacked by more sand creatures, and she's knocked over the ledge of the hourglass. So the prince was able to catch her just in the nick of time, but he catches the blade portion of the dagger, preventing her from falling. So he wasn't going to let go of the dagger until basically to save everyone. And so she realizes, well, the only way to save, this everyone that's dead and keep Vizier from taking over and having immortality is to let go. So she lets go of the dagger and dies, falls to her death. So the prince ends up being like swarmed by all these other sand creatures. He fights them, but after he finishes fighting them, he realizes that he can't use the dagger to rewind time to save her because too much time has passed. The dagger only has a certain amount of time it can go back. I think it's like canonically like 15 seconds or something like that. I don't know exactly, but you just know there's not enough time. So he reaches the bottom of the glass. He mourns her death and everything, and the vizier arrives. Vizier tries to convince the prince to take immortality for himself, but of course Prince refuses, and in his anger, he puts the dagger back into the hourglass basically, and then he somehow triggers a grand rewind, a huge rewind. Basically, he's able to return all the sand to the hourglass, and then time actually goes back all the way to prior of the attack of the palace. So it's like they think it's like before the vizier visits the king of Persia. So that's kind of like where the story picks up, because in the beginning you were like climbing into this room to speak with Farah, and you find out that the whole time it was the prince telling the story of what happened, why he's there. And Farah just kind of like doesn't believe him, because she was, she's just like, it's a fairy tale. And as that happens, the visor comes in, realizes that the prince is there, heard his story, and knows it's, somewhat true. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill her and blame the prince. So the prince sits there and fights Vizier and his like magic double, and ends up like finally killing him. And Farah is just like, why would you tell me such a fantastic story when this all happens? And then he's just kind of like kisses her. She, rejects it, pushes him away, slaps and everything. Prince rewinds time. Oh, by the way, the prince kept the dagger somehow. That was never explained, but for some reason when time rewinded itself all the way, he still had the dagger. But rewinds time. He says, instead of like kissing her this time, he agrees with her and says, the account of Vizier's treachery was just a story, whatever. Before he leaves, though, she asks for his name, and the prince tells her to call him whatever the secret word is. I can't think of it, but it's like the secret word that her mother told her, and that's only her mother and her knew. And she realizes like there's probably some legitimacy to his story, because that's only a word that me and my mother knew. And that's where the game ends. And as far as the future goes, I'm assuming, based on how you hinted it, you were either referring to the fact that Sands of Time was being remade. It was supposed to come out last year, 2021, but COVID pushed it back, and we still don't have a release date. But this also leads to The Warrior Within, The Two Thrones, The Forgotten Sands, which The Warrior Within is actually the prince somehow is able to reverse time back to before the Sands of Time.
2.5 minutes left, Josh.
Let's see, what else can I mention? The prince is the one narrating the story. Oh, when you die or you're doing something that messes up, and you can hear the prince go, no, that's not how the story goes. That's because he's telling the story to Farah, and he's trying to like, it's just the gameplay of how everything's happening. So as it's being narrated, it's the prince telling the story to Farah after the story had already happened. I don't think there's a fast forward in this one. I can't remember though. I think it was just rewind and slow, maybe. No, it was just rewind. Okay, that's what I'm gonna stop that. I'm done. I don't know how good it did.
Hey, you got 1.5 minutes left. Look at you go. All right, I've already got it scored, Josh. I think I have you beat, but let's double check it together. So looking at the score, who's narrating? You got that one. It was the prince. Who are they narrating to? You also got that. That's Farah. What country is the prince and his father passing through? They're passing through India on their way to, I have it written down. They are on their way to, it is Azad. They're on their way to Azad. Bad guy's the Pfizer, okay. Like you said. Pfizer. What does he want? You mentioned it. He is ill, and the Sands of Time will heal him. Josh, you kept saying dagger, but I was waiting for you to actually name the dagger.
It's a dagger of time, isn't it? That's what I said.
We could rewind the tapes. You never said dagger of time. You just said the dagger to unlock the Sands of Time. Never.
God damn it.
You could rewind the tapes. You never said dagger of time. You got Pharaoh right.
Whatever.
You didn't mention that Pharaoh was being gifted to the, I believe it was the king of Azad, or the emperor of Azad.
I totally.
So she was a prisoner, and she was being gifted as they were unlocking the Sands of Time. Prince unlocked the Sands of Time. You got that one. Who was spared from the sands? You almost forgot to mention Farah, but you circled back and got it. So good on you. She's protected from the medallion. Pfizer protected by his staff. Prince protected by the dagger of time. You never mentioned wall running, Josh. This has the best game wall running ever. Until Titanfall came out like 10 years later, this was the best wall running. You mentioned rewinding time. Sands of Time turned everybody else into monsters. You got that one. How many swords are in the game? You never even mentioned that the swords change.
I totally forgot. Well, so I just remembered you had your sword that you had throughout it, and then the Dagger of Time, and then that part where Farah steals the sword and dagger, he ends up finding another sword. But I forgot there was more than that.
Yeah, there's 4 total swords in the game. Who does the prince work with? You got that right. That was Farah. Who betrays the prince? That was also Farah. What word does Farah tell the prince in the tomb? And this is your great white buffalo. Are you ready for this?
God, I can't remember the freaking word. What is it?
It is Kakaluka Yam, which I looked up, and it is roughly translated to the dove and the owl. I got that from the wiki, so if it's wrong, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Josh. No points will be rewarded. No points will be rewarded. I was never going to get that one. And may the Lord have mercy on your soul. Who was awakened by the events of this game? You started to go into it. I thought for sure you were going to name Dahaka, but you never said Dahaka.
Okay. Well, when you said led into, I wasn't sure if you were talking about like a franchise or if you're talking like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, and the whole reason Dahaka's role in the lore is he's the protector of timelines and the protector of things chronologically happening the way they're supposed to happen. And he is unlocked by the events of this game because the prince is fucked with time way too much.
Well, yeah. So it's supposed to be Farah dies, the prince still kills Vizier, and the country, is it Azad that it all happened in?
Yeah, it was because they were gifting the hourglass and Farah to the Emperor of Azad.
That's right. So he was supposed to be the only one to survive and move on, but since the prince rewinded time, it woken him, and then the reason he traveled back further is because he realized that he couldn't defeat the creature, and the only way to defeat it would be to go back in time and stop the Sands of Time from being created.
That is correct. What fear does the prince have? I was surprised you got this. I didn't think you were going to get it. He is afraid of tight spaces. Didn't stop him and Farah from getting it on, though. Hey-oh, zing, 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 zing.
Technically, it was in a light or a lit bath, wasn't it? It was a lit bath.
That was a sex joke, Josh. Keep up.
I got it.
And then the Sword of Enlightened Warrior. He gets this after Farah steals all his stuff. There's like this weird like light puzzle, and it's that sword with like the black steel sword with like the gold trim on it that kills like the sand creatures with like one swipe.
Honestly, I have to play the game again, to be honest, because like a lot of this, I was like reading it, and I'm like, I don't remember half of this.
I also think 20 minutes was too much time for this because there's not a whole lot of story in the game. There's like the first beats. I kept
freezing up though.
There's the first beats and the end beats. Yeah, Josh, a lot of dead air in there. A lot of dead air.
Oh, dude, okay. There's a lot to think of, and I didn't study very well apparently.
So let me go back and score this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 times 2.5.
Man, did I call it or what?
32.5.
32.5.
Ding, ding, ding. I think that means I win. I was 36.5, Josh.
God damn it.
You know what that means? Shirtless XCOM, Joshua.
Damn it.
Shirtless XCOM.
A true sport would join me, though.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But when I see you on Tuesday on the stream and if you're not shirtless, there will be hell to pay.
You'll have to remind me, honestly.
I will remind.
I'm gonna try and forget. I'm gonna have to drink my sorrows tonight and forget about it.
I will remind you. All right, Josh. So everyone, that is the speed cap. Josh, any final words?
Yeah, if anybody's watching or listening and you're interested, the Prince's whole story is actually on sale right now on Steam.
Yeah, so all 5 Prince of Persia games on sale on Steam for $9. Hopefully, so this doesn't go up until the 31st. This doesn't go up till the 31st, but we'll put something in. We have Instagram now. We'll put something up on the Instagram. Make sure, guys, go check us out on Instagram, on Twitter. We're everywhere. Smashing Game Time. I'm Nick at Nick Fat Knight on Twitch. Also, that Kaufman on Twitter, and I am pointing the right way. Josh, where are you at?
There you go. I'm on Twitter and Twitch at I'm Josh Saying.
I'm Josh Saying. So, folks, again, if you have the time, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That'll get us in front of more earballs and eyeballs. Next week is 2004.
Yep.
And Josh is going to be pulling that sheet, so that'll be a lot of fun. I think 2004 is a banger, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think it's the last good year. Well, one of the last. Yeah, I think it's the last good year for that gen, and then we don't see anything really pop until like 2006.
This is a very It's a very short. What is that? Generation 5 of the consoles. Very short generation.
Yeah.
As always, folks, thanks to Alex Marvin Clark for Hunt Him Down, our intro and outro song. And that is the best I'm going to get that outro piece right there. That is so good. Oh my goodness, that was the best it's ever been.
One take.
Again, everybody, I'm Nick. That's Josh. This is Smashing Game Time, and we'll see you guys next time. And we're sure it's going to be a Smashing Game Time.